Hi, this is Zach here with the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Zach's Traders Cafe for Wednesday, the 4th of December. Starting off with the FTSE 100, which has backed off from 8,400, which I suppose you'd expect it to do. But at least while we're above the old November resistance around 83.10, still looking for a push to the upside. We have our RSI at 61, so not overbought yet. Top of the channel there, 8600 or 8610 probably now. And that's our target for the end of the year. If all goes well, we have the typical end-of-year rally. On the downside, hoping that we won't have anything lower than the 50-day moving average at 82.20 if the 8300 zone breaks. Moving on to the DAX, which was flying yesterday, and situation now that it's still flying. Another gap to the upside. Amazing move here. We were looking for the top of the channel there from this time last year at 20,600 by the end of the month, and looks as though we're going to get that a bit sooner than the end of the month, but ideally we stay above 20,000 and looking for that 20,600 to 700 area by the end of this month. Moving along to the Dow, and here the situation is that still consolidating near that resistance line projection from August. You could argue that I suppose that it's a little less steep than was drawn, so we've actually hit it at 45,000, above 45,000, looking for the best case scenario target as high as 46,800 by the end of December. On the downside, not expect anything lower than the 44,000 area, which was the top of the old channel from this time last year. The RSI a bit of a negative, and that has obviously kicked in the last couple of days, so higher resistance or higher highs there for the start of December, but the RSI is basically the same as it was back in November, so bearish divergence, adding a bit of pressure on the Dow. Moving on to Bitcoin, and I suppose it's one of those things that until it actually does break 100,000, it's going to look as though this is the top. But could argue that this is basically a bull flag or a mid-move consolidation ahead of a new move to the upside. Initial target here is 101,000, which is that resistance line projection from April, and then after that looking for up to 120,000, perhaps as soon as the end of next month. Ideally, we stay above the old target that we had there at 89,000, the old target line, ahead of move through the 100k zone. Moving on to gold, which has been dithering for the last few days, dithering at and just around the 50-day moving average there, 2684. Want to see end of day close above that, so that would hopefully then at least bring us 2745, the November peak, and allow progress within the rising trend channel from February as high as 2860 by the end of next month. Worst case on the downside is to be able to test the floor of the rising channel there at 2600. But not really expecting this market to go lower than recent 2640 zone support. Moving on to the stocks, and basically never thought I'd see this breakout, but we were after the umpteenth time, and a couple of false dawns there, where one was at the beginning of the year and the other one back in April. It looks as though Audioboom is going to go up and was going up and staying up. Initial target there was the top of that rising trend channel from this time last year at £3, above £3 on an end of day close basis. We're looking for the wider channel, the upper parallel of that 2024 resistance line target as high as £3.65, and looking for that actually by the end of this month on the basis that we're in the run up to a golden cross, 50 and 200 day lines both rising, and also the rally started with a gap off, unfilled gap to the upside off the low. So as I said, looks as though the seller is, well, the very persistent seller at £2.60 has finally done their work. This stage only back below the 260 level, say 265 to be precise, would delay the upside scenario, and you can see the shares rising as I speak. Moving on to Blue Star Capital, and here we were looking for the shares to hit the top of that falling trend channel there, the red line, and the 200-day moving average at 028. They did exceed it, but they've come back, so looking for an end-of-day close above that 200-day line at 028, and heading up to as high as 0.05 by the end of next month, if all goes well and the shares stay above recent resistance at 0.16. Moving along to Beacon, which apparently is now a cash shell, which is very nice for it. And here, if I can type out the right stock, we have situation where we seem to be bumping along the bottom. We're back above the old support from last month there at 0.32, and looking for at least the 50-day moving average again at 0.47 or 0.46 over the next few days. But interesting that we've had quite a bounce there for the shares today. Maybe there's something in the offing on the fundamental front. Given how many stocks are leaving the market, it's always good to see one coming back. And here we have Contango. It's interesting that after the couple of months away from the stock market, the shares have resumed within that rising trend channel base. Top of the channel there at 2.2 pence, which is what we're looking for by the end of next month, while we remain above recent resistance at 1.4 pence. But I suppose the real thing here is that we need to stay above that 200-day line, 1.3 pence. Onto a stock which I don't think anybody really looks at, but here it is as a charting situation. We've got Croma Security Solutions. I've been looking at this for a while. Looks like we've just broken out of the recent consolidation, and above 86 pence, looking for the shares to hit the top of the higher trend channel there, as high as £1.10 by the end of next month. Ideally, we stay above that 80 pence zone. We're helped by the recent golden cross, last month's golden cross between the 50 and 200-day moving averages. On to EnergyPathways, where I enjoyed the presentation last week, but after a slight bounce for the stock the day after, you can see that we've gapped down, and as we really enjoy our gaps up, unfilled gaps up off the lows, we don't enjoy, at least if you're a bull, unfilled gaps to the downside off the top, which is what we've got there at the moment. Ideally, support comes in at or above the 7.7 pence area on this particular gap down that we have seen. We've also got bearish divergence there, so shares really need to get back above the top of the gap there at 9.5 pence to reinstate the move within that rising trend channel that we've had there since August. Moving on to Greatland, which seems to have done all that it wanted to do in terms of its acquisition, and a nice setup here with what I call a V-shaped bull flag. And also we've got the prospect of a golden cross there as well. The 200-day line and the 50-day lines are both rising, so it looks as though we're set up for a retest of May resistance as a minimum at around 8.8 pence by the end of this month, and ideally the shares stay above recent support at 7 pence. On to Gfinity, which has also had a flyer. We were sort of tentatively looking for 0.34 there as a target at the top of that triangle, but blown the doors off on that, and now looking for up to 0.60, or 0.65 in fact, and hopefully we can get that by the end of next month. Ideally, we stay above recent resistance and the former target there around the 0.35 area. Moving on to Invinity, which I think I covered yesterday, and here it's made progress after the end of day close above a sharply rising 50-day moving average of 12.5 pence. I'm looking for 20 pence really by the end of this month, which hopefully will be achievable, and that would also be a gap fill from the top of the September gap down that we had, and obviously want to stay above that 50-day line currently at 12 pence. On to another stock which gets rather little coverage, which is Learning Technologies, but a nice U-shaped bull flag, as I would call it, and breaking out of that, top of the channel there up to as high as £1.25, which we're looking for by the end of next month. Old resistance around 90 pence has become new support, and we've got that sharply rising 50-day line after the golden cross that we had for the shares back in October. So looking good across the board there for Learning Technologies. Moving along to N4 Pharma, which I'm looking at for after a long time here. We've gapped through the 50 and 200-day lines, looking for the top of that rising trend channel base from June as high as 0.8 pence, while we remain above the 50 and 200-day lines there around 0.62 pence. I also covered Orcadian yesterday, which mysteriously seems to be rising. Beautiful sideways shuffle above a now rising 50-day moving average. Broke the November resistance at 7.25 pence, and looking for up to 12.9 pence by the end of the month, after what would obviously have to be a comprehensive break of that 200-day moving average, which the shares haven't been above since back in April. Ideally, there's no break back below that 50-day line at 6.5 pence, whatever happens. Moving on to Premier Miton, where I suppose the lay of the land must be quite tough at the moment, but it's a bear trap gap reversal. We're back above the October support there at 57 pence, and the longer we stay above that, the greater the chance of a move up to 76 pence at the top of that triangle from May by the end of next month. So a punchy call there, but we're feeling punchy there on that one. Finishing off with Vinanz, which seems to be celebrating the prospect of moving to the official list. We've already noted that we've had almost no red candles on this chart at all. It's sort of like a limit up situation, hardly any red candles there, probably 5 since in the recent past, over the last year or whatever it is. And rising trend channel there, top of the channel there, heading for 22 pence, which we're looking for by the end of next month, while we remain above the rising 50 and 200-day moving averages around 13 pence. That's it for me today. More updates tomorrow.